Come sew the perfect flat quilted pouch with me. A simple flat pouch is one of my best sellers at craft fairs, and I want to show you exactly how I make mine so you can make them too. Here is one example of my perfect quilted flat pouch. It's a little close up there so you can see the quilting. They are so fun to make, they're so fast, so simple, and I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. Notions and supplies for this pattern are pretty limited. You're going to need 2 different coordinating fabrics, a fat quarter of each is plenty, and some scrap quilt batting. If you don't have scrap, just get whatever the smallest size you can is and you will have more than enough. You could honestly probably make 20 of these pouches with even a crib size quilt batting piece. Specialty notions, you're going to need a sewing ruler, spray-based, and heat erasable pens, all of which you should be able to find at your local sewing big box store, or I will have links to down below as well. And then your regular sewing notions, your machine, your pins, your thread, all things like that. And a zipper. You will need a zipper as well that is at least 10 inches long. I will also show how to use zipper by the yard or zipper tape if that is of interest too. And I think that's it. It's a really simple project. It's honestly a really quick sew. And if you want it to be even quicker, you could totally leave the quilting off and just make the perfect flat pouch as well. Totally up to you. But let's go ahead and jump right in. So first thing to do is to make sure your pieces are cut out. So you're going to use the lining pattern piece to cut 2 lining pieces. And then you're going to cut the exterior piece to cut 2 exteriors. So I have 2 exteriors here. And then 2 pieces of scrap quilting pattern, the same size as the exterior. To attach that, we're going to use, set this over here for now, spray-based. We're going to use spray-based to attach that. So here, my batting, I just kind of smush it out a little bit, and this is the spray-based I'm using, but any brand really does. And do a light layer. And I like to stay pretty close to the batting because this does overspray. Then take your exterior piece, put it right side up on top, and then just use your fingers to kind of finger press and smooth it down. When you do this, you might see that even though you use the pattern piece to cut them the same size, your batting is a little bigger. That is totally okay. It just means the batting kind of flattened out a little bit. So I just grabbed my rotary cutter and trim that up. If you're not comfortable using the rotary blade in a straight line, definitely use a ruler for this, but I'm just going to kind of trim it so it matches. Then we are going to take it over to the iron and do a cool iron, and then repeat with our other pieces as well. And so here is my 2 pieces there ironed. Just giving them that cool iron just helps really make sure that spray-based holds. We'll set those off to the side for a moment. And then our next step is to take our lining pieces and apply with our iron a lightweight interfacing like an SF101 to the wrong side of the lining. So here's the right side, this is the wrong side, and you put the SF101 on the wrong side. And that really just helps give it stability. So if you look at these two, the differences of these two, this is going to help give your bag structure, whereas without it, the lining would be kind of floppy. So definitely do not skip the SF101 or other lightweight fusible interfacing on this. So I'm going to go apply interfacing to this one as well. And then we are ready to draw our quilting lines. All right, so drawing our quilting lines on our exterior pieces is our next step. To do this, you want to make sure you have heat erasable fabric marking pens. Very important that they are heat erasable because we don't want to see these lines after we're done with the quilting. So kind of depends on your fabric, which one works best. I'm going to try both of these and see what works. Then you just take a ruler and you're going to start by lining up corner point to corner point and drawing a line. You want to be able to see that line when you're done. So yeah, I think the red will be good. And then you just have to decide from there how far apart you want your quilting lines. If you want them more quilted or less quilted. I usually like about 1.5 inches. So then I just find my 1.5 inches. I line that up with the line I just drew. Draw another line and repeat all the way across my piece. You can see sometimes on these darker fabrics, I like to kind of go over my line a few times to make sure I can really see it. So there's all my lines going that way. Now I'm going to flip it. Do the same going this way. And again, I'm being consistent with whatever width I chose. For me, it is 1.5 inches. All right, and then you can see we have all our lines going that way. Now we're going to do the opposite. We started from this corner to this corner. Now we're going to go here to here. And we're going to do the same thing, making sure our lines cover our whole piece, and that kind of makes the grid that we're going to follow to quilt. And you want to use the same width that you used going the other direction. That consistency is what gives us that nice finished look. And those perfectly pretty little quilted diamonds. I'll hold it up in the light so you can see it a little better, but you can see my diamond shape on there. So now we're going to take this to our machine and we are going to sew a straight line along every single one of those lines we just drew to create our quilted diamonds. We're going to do that for this piece, and then we're going to repeat the whole marking and quilting process on our second piece as well. All right, so here's my one side quilted, and I want to show, if you look really close, you can kind of still see where my red pen is, but now I'm going to go take this over to my iron, give it a good press, and all of that pen will disappear. So here it is after being pressed, and you can see no more red pen. That is why it's so important to use those heat erasable pens. And you can see by taking the time to mark our lines, we have nice, beautiful, even diamonds on our piece. So like I said, we're going to do this to both exterior pieces, so I'm going to go do it to my other piece as well, and then we will come back and work on the zipper. All right, so now it is time to put our zipper in. I am going to be using zipper by the yard, but I want to show that it's very similar to using a regular zipper. So zipper by the yard looks like this, like it just keeps going. There is no zipper pull attached, whereas this is a regular zipper. If you're using a regular zipper, you will just cut it the same way, but you'll start right after these little middle tabs. So you'll line those up, go to their cut, and then just be careful with your zipper tab. But for the zipper by the yard or the zipper, what we want to do is cut our zipper to the exact length of our pouch. So I just line it up here, I line it up here, and right here is where I want to cut. Grab my scissors. And cut. So it's the same length. Then we're going to fold our zipper ends back. So on one side of the zipper, if you're using a regular zipper, it would be this side. So here, I'll just show it on a regular too, but then install it. So what I would do is I would cut here. Then I would line that up, hold that there, and then I would cut here on a regular. See how it's essentially the same? It's just this doesn't have that pull on yet. So either way, on this side, I'm going to fold my zipper back, just take this little tab, fold it back and under, just like that, just a little bit, and then give it a little clip to hold it in place. You can see how that's folded under, and I'm going to do that here as well. And a clip to hold it in place. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I'm going to do the same down here. I'm going to take my zipper, open it up just a little bit, and again I'm folding it back just a smidge. So it's just under there, and then, oh, surprise strings, fold it back. Then I'm going to take this as well, fold it back, and give it a little clip. So it should now be just slightly shorter than our pouch. Oh, this one's coming undone, which happens. Just pop it open, fold it back, re-clip. You can see now it is just slightly shorter than our actual pouch, which is intentional. So in a regular zipper, I'm going to take this straight to the zipper straight to my machine. Sorry, I'm going to take this regular zipper straight to my machine and sew all these corners down using a zipper foot to just hold that in place. So I'm basically going to baste these 4 corners in place. For my zipper by the yard, it's the same, except I'm only going to do 2 corners. It's real cold in my studio today, so my fingers don't really want to work. Here we go. 1 and a 2. So I would take it to my machine. I would baste these 2 corners. Then I would put my zipper pull on my zipper, and then I would do the other corners. So essentially the same thing, it's just however your zipper was purchased. So I'm going to go ahead and tack these, and then I'll come back and we'll work on installing the zipper. All right, so my zipper is tacked, and again, I'm using this one, so I'm going to move this out of the way, but that would be used. So here's what I mean by tack. You can see I just did a few stitches right on that end to hold those corners there. So to insert the zipper, we're going to work one side at a time. So you're going to take one exterior piece, keep moving out of frame, apologies. One exterior piece, take your zipper, you're going to put the zipper teeth, so this side that's got the raised edge, down along the top edge, and you're going to try to center it between the edges there, just like that. You're then going to take one lining piece, you're going to flip it so it's wrong side down, and center it up there as well. So they're all aligned right at the top there. Then you're going to take some pins or some clips, clip that in place. Use as many clips or as pins as you want. I've done this so much that honestly when I'm doing it for myself I don't usually use them, but here we will to show. So you can see all of my pieces are aligned right at the top there. If I flip this open, you can see the zipper nice and neat in the middle. We're now going to take this to our machine and we're going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance using a zipper foot right down here, and then we will open it and top stitch it. But for now we're just going to sew right down there using a zipper foot. So now you can see I've sewn all the way down that edge. What I'm going to do is flip the lining back to expose my zipper. I'm going to take this over to my iron. I'm going to pull this taut and I'm going to iron just right here. Do not iron over your zipper. Just get your iron right up to that edge there and give it a nice press. So there's it ironed. You can see how nice and flat it sits. So now we're going to flip this whole bad boy over so our wrong sides are showing. We're going to pull our exterior back, fold it down on top of the lining. So you can see the lining here and our zipper at the top. And again, we're going to press right along the top, not getting the zipper, just the top of the fabric here. And there's that. You can see how nice and flat that sits now. And here's my back and here's my front. So now we're going to top stitch along here, but we only want to do our front piece, not our lining. That's what helps make it lay so flat later on. So to do that, we flip this back open and we take our zipper and we fold it towards the lining. So the edge of the zipper tape is going this way, but the zipper's over there. We're going to keep it flat like that. We're going to take this to our machine and we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch right along this edge here, making sure we're catching this extra seam down here, but that we're not catching anything there. So here is how it looks now. You can see we've got that top stitching on the front, but if we flip it over, nothing. And again, that is intentional. So now what we're going to do is the same thing for this other side of the zipper. So I'm going to take my other front piece. I'm going to take my zipper piece, flip it so the exterior is down, and line that zipper up along that top edge there, just like that. And then I'm going to take my other lining piece, right side down, line it up along the same, go ahead and clip it, and then we are going to sew it and top stitch it just the same as we did for the other side. And here's what our piece should look like now. I went and added a bag tag. That is just something I put on mine. It's a little bit more of an advanced piece, so don't worry about it for now. And again, you flip it over and there's no top stitching in here. By now you might be wondering why the heck the lining is shorter. That is 100% intentional, and it reduces bulk at the end of our piece. So what we're going to do now is get ready to sew the shape of our pouch. All right, I zoomed out a little bit, so hopefully it is easier to see. But what we're going to do now is grab our lining pieces, just our lining pieces, not our exteriors, and put them so they are right sides together. And then flip it so our exteriors are right sides together. So you should have lining, lining, exterior, exterior. We're going to need a whole bunch of pins here. And we are going to start pinning along these outside edges. And we want to make sure we are also lining up our zipper. So when you open it like this, you'll see here are 2 pieces here. We line those up about as perfectly as we can. And we put a pin there. And then we lay that flat and we pin up and down that side. Like so. And we're going to do the same on the other side. So we pick it up, kind of flatten it out a little bit. We'll find our 2 seam lines. We line those up. We pin there. And then we pin up and down our edges. All right, so just like that. The one thing we still need to do is make sure we are leaving an opening on this end to turn our pouch out. So what I do here is I just grab my fabric pen and I kind of go like this and like this, roughly 2 inches. You can see it not quite, so I guess there's closer to 2 inches on each side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sewing here. I'm going to go here, here, all the way through here, all the way through here, and then back to here and stop here. So I'm going to sew around the entire exterior except for this little spot, because that's where we're going to turn the bag out. Make sure you backstitch here and here as well, so that's nice and stuck. And do be careful going around these little lumps because you don't want to make sure your zipper's in the way. So go nice and slow there. We're going to do that, and then we'll turn our bag right side out. All right, so we have that all sewn, again, minus this little part here. And our next step is to try to trim some of these corners. So you can do that a couple ways. You can either just take your regular scissors and snip here and here, kind of creating a little triangle point, making sure you don't go through that corner. Or if you have a pair of pinking shears, this is my preferred way. I just take it, go go right down the edge, again, making sure we're avoiding that seam. And I do that all the way around. And here is what that looks like. What that does is help take some of the bulk out of your seams so your pouch lays nice and flat. But making sure, again, you can kind of see here, we're going close to our stitching, but we're not going through it. And then I do usually take my scissors and I do a little more right at my seams, because that is where the pouch tends to be the bulkiest. Again, you can see we're going right close to it, but not quite through those seams. And now here is both the fun and the scary part. We are going to reach in through our opening all the way through our pouch. If your zipper's in your way, you can kind of push it out to the side. Go down here, grab this, and yank it through. And it's called birthing a bag. And then you're going to put your hand back inside. And you're going to push out these bottom corners. Now, I am wearing fake nails, which makes that a little hard. So what I actually do is I have this old makeup brush, but anything that has this kind of blunt, rounded edge, and I use that. So I put that inside the hole. I go down in the corner, and I use that to kind of shape my corners. Again, if you're not wearing fake nails, it's probably fine, but it just helps me get it flat. And make sure those are nice and flat like that. Pretty. Then we're going to go back up to this edge. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to find our corners, poke them out so they're nice and square. And then our next step is to close this hole. So what you do is you put your finger on either side, you pull it taut, and you can see how those edges, those raw edges, fold in. You're going to hold those closed. You'd put some pins along here, and then you're going to go and you're going to stitch that closed. And here is what that looks like. You can see I stitched nice and close to the edge, and that closes off the hole nicely. So now we're going to take our lining, shove it back inside our pouch. I'm going to grab this zipper end, and again, I use a turning tool, but your finger works too, and use that to kind of push out this corner. You reach inside and put the corners of the lining into the corners of the pouch. Got strings everywhere. And then flatten it out. We're going to close it up. I like to take it over to my iron and give it one last press so everything is nice and flat. And then your pouch is done. All right, so here it is after pouch. And so you can't really tell that that lining is shorter, but really what that does is make sure that your pouch is so nice and compact and uniformly flat. And that is all it takes. You can see how quick and easy of a project that is. Honestly, the longest part is putting in these quilted lines, and you can totally leave that out if you want to and just have the perfect little flat pouch. It's kind of dark. There's my interior there. All right, if you make one of these, I would love to see it. Be sure to let me know down below, and have a great day.